My dear friends, I am Sethuram from Nivedita Academy. Today I would like to talk about critical reasoning. This is a kind of question which has got at least 2 or 3 questions appear in the CLAT examination. It's actually many of the students find it very difficult. Yes, of course it is difficult only because you have to infer certain things. That's why it may be you have to assume and infer. So your assumption or inference can be sometimes wrong. So the question, it may cause to negate your score. You will get some negative score also. So you have to be very careful. Unless you know the answer correctly, you are confident with the answer, don't mock it. Okay, that's very, very important in this question. Critical reasoning. What do you mean by critical reasoning? Critical reasoning means making clear, reasoned conclusion based on given facts and underlying assumptions. Questions test the ability of the candidates to analyze logical arguments. Okay. It is making a very clear, reasoned conclusion based on the facts, the given facts and assumptions that you have to find out. There are some underlying assumptions that you have to find out. This always a test to analyze the logical arguments of the candidate. Okay, this is a critical reason. This kind of question is asked. Basically, you need to have certain requirements. First is, you should have a knowledge of basic components of the critical reasoning. Basic components of the critical reasoning first. Second one is knowledge of different types of questions and tricks to solve the questions. Different types of questions. What type of questions? And that kind of knowledge you must have. And how to solve these questions. What kind of trick can be utilized for that? This also is very important. Another one, you need to do a lot of practice. Extensive practice is very crucial to solve these questions very easily. We discussed about you need to have basic components. What are these basic components for the critical reasoning of the verbal ability in the CLAT examination? It consists of very important items like facts, conclusion, assumption, inference, and arguments. Facts. It's a clear and a complete statement made by the author that can be verified. And the fact is also called a premise. A fact, a statement, very complete one, very clear one, it's a verified one, and it is called a premise. Next one is a conclusion. It is a point that the author is trying to convey or wants to convince us. What the author wants to convey. That's a conclusion. That you have to find out by assumption. So many assumptions you can take it up. And assumption, it is an unstated fact which was in the mind of the author while writing or issuing the given statement. There can be more than one assumption of any given situation. An assumption is always in respect of the author. Okay. An assumption, the author has got some unstated fact. You are assuming. When you do that, you are assuming. certain things. This might be there, that might be there, the author would have thought about that, this thing, like you make some arguments. With that argument, you assume, and finally in a given situation, and then finally in respect of the author, you are thinking about this, you are taking this assumption. And then inference. Inference, it is a inference is an unstated conclusion drawn on the basis of the given fact. A fact is there. Based on the fact, you draw some inferences, okay, and for a unstated conclusion. And there can be more than one inference for any given situation. The inference is in respect of the listener or reader. The assumption is in respect of the author or the writer, but inference is in respect of listener or the reader. Okay, that way, a fact, conclusion, assumption, inference, these are very important items in this critical reasoning that you have to find out. How will the question appear in the examination? What is the format for the examination? A typical critical reasoning question consists of a paragraph containing few facts and a few unstated assumptions also, and which will be leading to a conclusion. A facts, some unstated assumptions, and that will lead to a conclusion. So these things are there in the paragraph. So you have to find out, you have to read a question very carefully. The most important requirements to solve the critical reasoning is, in the CLAT examination, is after reading the question paragraph, you should be able to figure out the following. What are they? Whether you have to find out the facts or reasoning or conclusion or assumption. These things you have to find. What is the question? You have to read the question very well. Whether you have been asked to find out the facts, or whether you are asked to find out the conclusion, or whether you are asked to see the underlying assumptions also, underlying statements, unstated statements are they. That you have to find out in the examination. Well, you go into the question, read the question very carefully and find out whether you have been asked to find out the premise, or whether you are asked to find the conclusion, or you want to find out the assumptions. That you have to do that. Okay. The next one, how to identify the question. First, identify the question. Okay. First step is in raising the critical reasoning question. You have to begin by categorizing the problem. What problem? You have to categorize whether you have to find out a premise, or whether you have to find out the conclusion, or whether you have to find out the assumption. You categorize first. Then you can easily solve the problems once you read and pay attention and making any notes of that, and you will carefully go into the paragraph and find out, and then you read the options also. While you read the options, you can find out easily the answers. What kind of questions? First question, whether weaken the arguments or flaws. You have to find out whether there is any flaw in the argument. You have to see. Strengthen the argument. Strengthen means there is a clear-cut fact is there or not, truth is there or not. In the statement, the paragraph, one of the statements, one of the options, there may be a truth. What is given in the paragraph, the truth may be is there. So that also is a strengthen. That calls strengthen the argument. Third one is assumption. Find out the assumptions. There are different kinds of assumptions. Arguments will be there. The author might have done this, because of this you have told like that. So you make some assumptions. Okay. Then finally you come to a inference. You draw some inferences, not only one or two. Some inferences you can find out a conclusion. The structure of the argument. You find out the structure of the argument also. And the paradoxical statements also will be there. Paradoxical means something will be there and then negative also will be there. So such kind of statements are also there or not. You just find out. and evaluate the conclusion. Finally, after knowing all these things, so what is the conclusion? You have come out and find out evaluate whether what you have chosen out of all these 4 options, whether you have taken the correct answer or not. Evaluate. You eliminate. By this you can do only by eliminating options. 1 or 2 options we can easily eliminate. The 2 options are very crucial. In these 2 options, you find out why you have to eliminate the other one. That you have to find out. And finally you make some arguments and make some assumptions. Then finally you can do that one. Right? That way you have to do. And then what is the fundamental principles while you do this exercise, while you do these critical reasoning questions? Only you have to find out the premise, conclusion and underlying assumption. These are the things. Okay. So next one, when you do that, premise actually usually begins with some of the identifiers like as if, given that, since, because, suppose. These kinds of beginners linkers also will be there. So that will give you a clue that it is a premise like that. Now let us do one exercise. Basic approach in your mind should be you have to read it is somewhat different from the reading comprehension question. Here you can first of all read it very carefully. Then you are required to read and pay a close attention to the answers. You read the options also. Out of all these 4 options, which one is suitable? While you read the paragraph, you can understand 2 options can be easily eliminated. Other 2 options, they are crucial. So you read it again. Pay a very close attention to the passage as well as the 2 options. Then you do that. Okay. Then you can do the answer. Now let us do one exercise. I read out one paragraph and following with some options. You can find out, or it appears on the screen also there. You just see that. Okay. Although in the limited sense of freedom regarding appointments and internal working, the independence of the central bank is unequivocally ensured, the same cannot be said of its right to pursue monetary policy without a coordination with the central government. The role of the central bank has turned out to be subordinate and advisory in nature. Which of the following best supports the conclusion drawn in the passage? There are 4 options given. If you are not able to understand it, you can read it, but don't waste your time unnecessarily in the examination. The time consumption is very, very important. While you read, pay close attention to the paragraph, and once you go into the questions, then it will be very easy for you. First of all, so many readers used to read questions first, then go to the paragraph. So that will be easy for you to find out the correct answer. Okay. Now which one of the following best support the conclusion drawn in the passage? There are 4 options given. A decision of the chairman of the central bank to increase the bank rate by 2 percentage points sent shock waves in the industry, academic and government circles alike. B. Government has repeatedly resorted to monetization of the debt despite the reservation of the central bank. The central bank, third one, C. The central bank does not need the central government's nod for the replacing soiled currency notes. D. The inability to remove coin shortage was a major shortcoming of this government. Now these 4 options, it is a very, very easy only. This question is, I think it is a very, very easy question. There is nothing is said about the chairman of the central bank. In the paragraph, nothing is said about the chairman of the central bank. And then the central bank does not need the central government's nod. It is somewhat related. Okay. The inability to remove the coin shortage, nothing is said about the coin shortage in this system, in the banking system. B is the government has repeatedly resorted to monetization of the debt despite the reservation of the central bank. Central bank is taking some steps, but the government is always interferes. Okay. So it is always central government is working as a subordinate to the central government. So that is a correct one. B is a correct one. So that you can easily choose that one. So you make some arguments, right? That way, what's the correct answer? It's a B is the correct answer. Now we have discussed about how to face critical reasoning questions in the examination for CLAT. So it is not very tough, but once you go to a very close attention in reading, giving reading, it will be very easy for you. And also you have to find out the 4 options. You have to go through the 4 options also and eliminate the answers which is not correct, and find out which one is crucial, which one is the correct one. That you find out very easily. So reading the passage as well as understanding the options are very, very important in this CLAT examination. You can do it very easily. Once you are very much interested, do a lot of practice in this. Thank you very much.